Daf Yud Amud Aleph, 7 lines from the top. We're in the middle of a discussion about preparing oneself for tefillah. He couldn't cross Lekech Yisrael. Before a person davens, he has to prepare himself, dressed in a dignified way. And that's why we learned that where the belts were untied and loosened before a meal, then he would not have to interrupt the meal that constitutes the beginning of the meal, and for davening he would have to fasten and tighten his belt, so we're not matriach him. So the Gemara is going to bring now some other examples of how one prepares himself and is mekayim hikon l'kras Lekech Yisrael. Rava ba Rav Huna Rami Puzmeke umatzli. He would put on coverings on his feet, chashuv coverings on his feet, and he would daven. Omer hikon l'kras v'goymer. That's how one prepares himself for davening. It says, so we see from here that you cannot daven barefoot. You have to have coverings on your feet when you daven, except for Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, one is obligated to cover his feet. Rava shadeglime upachayara masle. Rava, he took off his cloak, and he didn't want to look so chashuv. He wanted to look more pashut, and he also he put his hands together, put his hands and fingers together in his hands and daven. He would daven in that manner. Amar ka'avda kamemore. He wanted to present himself like an eved, like a servant in front of a master with humility. Ravashi, Amar Ravashi Chazina Leil Rav Kahana ki yikat Sarah Balma. I saw the manner of Rav Kahana, that when there was tsar in the world, then Shadik Limu Pachayara Matzli. That's the way he used to daven. Remove the cloak, and put his hands together like an eved before a master. Amar Kav the Kami Mari. Ki Kashalma, but when there was Shalom in the word Lovish Miskasa, he put on the cloak and he covered himself and clothed himself in a dignified manner, in a more kavedic manner. And he wrapped himself into that and he said, Hikon l'kras Lekech Yisrael. Taisus has a discussion over here regarding the tightening of the belts. When we say Hikon l'kras Lekech Yisrael, that you see you have to have a belt, you have to have a girdle. He brings down the Machzor Vitri, who says that's only if a person it's only for the requirement that there should be a separation between the upper body and the lower body. But otherwise, we who have a separation in any event between the upper and lower body, we have tightened garments that are tight around the waist. There's no requirement for a belt per se. And there's no requirement for a girdle. So this is a discussion in the Paiskim and the Minhagim, and from here we see that this is the makor for the minig for a girdle to tighten the belt. In addition, the Machzor Vitri says it's only for the requirement of Yikon Lekech Yisrael, but there's a Midas Chasidus that in addition to that, to have a Hikon Lekech Yisrael, to stand in a dignified manner before the Rebbeinu Shalom. He saw that he was davening in a long time, a lengthy period of time he was davening. They're manichim, the time that should be spent with Torah, they're davening, a long davening, tefillas are the bakoshos for what we need in this world, and the Torah is chayalam. Rather, they should not daven such a long davening and spend the time rather learning. Of course, they have to daven a proper davening, but not to be marach too much. But who savar, he davened a lengthy davening. Who savar zman tefillah l'chud v'zman tahor l'chud. At the time that one is engaged in tefillah, one is not mechuyev for Torah. Rav Yirmei Havi also come to Rav Zera Alski B'Shemaitza. They were learning Noga. It was getting late, and it was getting late for davening. V'kamasar Rav Yirmei. And Rav Yirmiyah was rushing and hastening to finish so that they can daven. Korale Rav Zera, Meiser Oza Mishmaya Torah, Gam Tefillah also Tayeva. A person who doesn't turn his ears from learning Torah, even his tefillah is a Tayeva, it's not accepted. We learned in the Mishnah, when there's the time when the din has started, if he should have davened before he started it, somach. But if he did start the din, then he does not have to interrupt. So what constitutes starting the din? When do we say the din has started? When the dayanim, they cover themselves with their talis. Rashi explains that they used to cover themselves with the talis over their heads, that to give them emes hadin. And secondly, is that they should not get distracted. So they cover themselves, their heads with the talis. That constitutes the tchilas hadin. The din has started, and therefore, once they've done that, they don't have to interrupt to daven. And the other one says when the opening arguments have commenced. But it's not a machlokes. When we say it's the opening arguments, that's if they were already from beforehand were sitting in din. So they already were satib b'din. Now a new case comes before them. When is the ascholos hadin? When the opening arguments of this new case. But if they haven't previously been sitting in din, they're just commencing to sit down now in the best din. When is the tchilas hadin? That's mishis hatfu. Ravami, Ravasi, Avi, Yossi, Garsi, Ben Emude, they were learning between the pillars of the base mendish, and every hour they would bang on the doorpost. If someone has a dinter, they should come in. They should come into the dinter. I mean, they were learning the whole time, but they regularly invited people to, if they had a dinter that they needed to have paskin, they should come in. So Taisus brings down from here, he says, you see from here that a din, the din Torah is ordered from Talmud Torah. They're prepared to be mafsek, they're learning for the din Torah. So you see that the din Torah takes priority over the Talmud Torah. Rav Hofstedter, Rav Hunavi, also Bedina Kol Yoma, they were engaged in the din Torah the whole day. They were feeling faint and weak because they didn't eat. He learned taught them the following. It says, they stood in for din Torah from the morning to the night. Do you really think that he done the entire day? He had to teach them Torah. When was the Torah being taught? It doesn't mean literally that, even though it says from morning to night, it doesn't mean that literally it was from morning to night. So it teaches you that kol dayin shedan din emeslam mitzay, a dayin that done a proper din eslam mitzay afilo shoachas, even if it's only 1 hour, malo alav kosav kilo nasa shutav lakodesh baruch v'ma'isa bereishis. It's like becomes a shutav and ma'isa brea partner in the creation. Ksiv hachav v'yavram al moisha min b'ikrat er, uksiv hasam v'yer v'yivayker yom echad. Just like that's talking about the creation of the world. Adan din emeslam mitzay is creating the world. It is mechazik the world. It gives the world, protects it from destruction. It gives it chizuk. So it's like it's a shut of the Kodesh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereishis. Taisus says that in emes la'amitai, what does that mean? Emes la'amitai. It means that the dayan, he is searching and he's careful to make sure that the din is done properly, and therefore if they're edim, that they're properly cross-examined and it's properly investigated. And he puts effort to ensure not only that the din is not corrupt, but that it's emes la'amitai, it's done properly with the proper care to ensure its truthfulness. How long do they sit in din before they break and they take a break and they're interrupted? Till the time of the meal. Amrav Chama Maikro Dechsiv Ilacha Eretz Shemalkech Nar V'Sarech B'Bayker Yachelu Ashrech Eretz Shemalkech Bein Choren V'Sarech Beis Yachelu B'Gvura V'Lo B'Shti. That how fortunate are you that your leaders, that your kings, that they eat at the proper time, and B'Gvura, and with might B'Gvura Shel Torah V'Lo B'Shtil Shel Yain, that they eat and they don't eat too early. They eat their food in the proper way, in the proper time, in the proper manner, and that's who your leaders are. Your leaders are responsible, and they are diligent, and they are not engaged in self-indulgence. So the dayanim, they don't eat right away. They paskin the din, they engage in the Torah till the normal time of Suda, the appropriate time of Suda, which the Gemara will discuss shortly. The first hour they eat right away when they wake up. That's ludim. They were like cannibals and they were gluttonous. Shniya machalistim, robbers also, that they were self-indulgent. They ate at the second hour. Shlishas machal yorshim, people who don't have to work, they inherited a lot of money. They ate in the third hour. Revis machal poelim, workers, ordinary workers. Chamishas machal kol b'nei adam. The fifth hour is people who are not laborers, but that is the general population. They eat at the fifth hour. That's when they eat their meal. It says the revius, the fourth hour, is the general population eat. Ella revius ma'cholam. The fourth hour is kolam. Chamishis ma'cholam. The fifth hour are the workers, the laborers, so they're working for their employer. They delay the meal so much. Shishis ma'chol talmidei chachamim. The sixth hour is when talmidei chachamim they delay till the sixth hour. After that, it's like throwing a stone into a jug. To pshotim in that one is that there's no benefit for it. Just like if you have a jug, you put a stone in it, it looks like you filled the jug with more wine, but you haven't filled it with anything. You just filled it with a stone, and it looks like the volume has increased, but it really hasn't. The second pshat Rashi brings down is that it's actually harmful. So this is when the meals are eaten. It's brought down in the Paiskim, the Magen Avram, and Mishnah Berurah brings down as well that some hold that these hours that we calculate starts not from Alois Shachar, but from a time that a person wakes up, so that it's relative. That's what some Paiskim hold, and therefore they defend those who on Shabbos they eat a little bit later, because till they come home from shul, etc., because it's calculated for when the person wakes up. That's what some Paiskim hold. Where do we say that afterwards, sixth hour, it's Kesara Kevin Lachem, it's only if you didn't eat anything in the morning? But if he has something to eat in the morning, then that does not apply. There's a machlokes. So what does it mean he ate? How much did he eat? Is it anything or drinking anything, or is it dafke eating pas, and is it a beya of pas? Different opinions in the Paiskim. A person could daven his tefillah in a beis hamerchatz, in a bathhouse. I may ask you a kash. How can you say that? If a person comes into the bathhouse, the outer area where people are dressed, yesham mikro tefillah, then you can have mikra, you can learn Torah and tefillah, you can daven, and you can certainly give shalom to a friend. Now, even though shalom is giving shalom is the name of Hashem, but over there people are dressed in that area, then you could say shalom. And you can read and put on tefillin, and certainly you don't have to take it off. But in the middle chamber, where some people are oimdim arumim levushim, some are clothed but some are not. Yesham shilas shalom, you can still give shalom, but v'einsham mikro tefillah, but you can't learn a daven. V'ein chaylet tefillin, you do not have to remove your tefillin. V'ein meniach lacharchila, but you cannot put it on lacharchila. But the inner chamber, where the people are not clothed, Ein Sham Shila Shalom, cannot give Shalom, Ve'ein Sarach Lemer Mikro Tefillah, and you can't learn and daven V'chayla Tefillah, and you have to remove the Tefillah. Ve'ein Sarach Lemer Sheina Menich, and certainly you can't put it on. So over here you see that you cannot, in the inner merchats, you cannot daven. So, and Ravana Barava said, Mitzpalam, lots of Veis HaMerchats. And the assumption is, as the Rishonim point out, the Ran mentions, is that when it says Beis HaMerchatz, the reference would not have been to the outer chamber, which is not Beis HaMerchatz proper. So we are talking about the Merchatz, and it's an inner chamber, but nobody's there. Nobody's there, so therefore you can daven there. In fact, more of Amar of Yosi Bar Chanina Merchas Shama Alf Bishain by Adam Basic Kisa Shama Alf Bishain by Tsoya, when we refer to a Merchas, even if nobody's there, even if no one is present, undressed over there, and we say in a Basic Kisa that you cannot daven, even if it's clean. Ella ki kamara becharati. What his reference was, what has not been used yet. It's a bathhouse, it's an inner chamber, but it's never been used yet. Fragt die Gemara, how can you say that? Vami boy Ravina his mina lebesa kisei mahu. If a person designated a basic kisei, even if it wasn't used yet, is it also to daven there? Mahu yesh siman or ain't siman? Do we say the designation itself gives it a classification as a basic kisei and it's also or not? So you see how to shaila. And how can we see over here that by merchatz, if Ravana Barhava said by merchatz you could daven there as long as it hasn't been used, why did he have this shaila? Why would Ravina have this shaila? So v'lo yishituleni, he was not poisoned. So lav huadin lamerchas. Now here the shaila by Sakisa, is this not the same din as a merchas? Will we not say that this is the same as a merchas? Versus loy dilma shiny beisakisa demoyes. Beisakisa is moyes. Rashi says even the name that it has a designation, a name of a beisakisa gives it a miyasa connotation, and therefore that's why he had a shaila. But a merchatz, it's not mos. The name Beis Merchatz is not mos like Beis Akisei, and therefore he held that one could daven in a new Beis Merchatz as long as it hasn't been used, even in the inner chamber. One could, and one could also have Shila Sholem and learn, etc. There's a shaila in the Paiskim about Shila Sholem. If a person's name is Sholem, can you be Shoel Sholem? Can you call him by his name? Is that called Shila Sholem? Sholem is the name of Rebbeinu Shalom, but here the references to not Rebbeinu Shalom, here the references to this person who has that name. So that's a discussion in the Paiskim.